It's that time of year once again. Leaves are changing color, it's starting to get a bit more chilly, but most importantly, it's the time of year people actually care about because the other 11 months of the year are just... yeah. Halloween is here, the time to carve jack-o'-lanterns, go trick-or-treating, partying, seasonal depression creeping up on you when you already have regular depression. Nonetheless, it's the time of year where everyone tries to have fun in any way they can, either with the examples I mentioned, or wanting to watch something that's a bit more spooky. Now, in fairness, I do try to watch the annual horror movies every October, but I don't go out of my way to watch the explicitly scary ones, which, often enough, takes everyone's lineup for Halloween and throws them right out the window. No, I'm not actually gonna throw these out of a window. Shit's expensive. However, another thing I love watching with my friends is some good old Halloween specials. We usually try to do the ones that we saw as kids, and it's always interesting to see what we grew up watching. But the one series we all had connected memories over was the Goosebumps TV show. Of course, this is based off the classic scary book series by R.L. Stine, which I didn't read much of as a kid, and the only one I do remember reading was a novelization of an episode of the show, The Cuckoo Clock of Doom. Now, given how this show was around before I was born and ended when I was still in diapers, I mostly saw it growing up when they started playing them on Cartoon Network in 2007 all the way to 2009 every October.
Jim, open the door! You're the one in the cellar.
Goosebumps, the whole month of October. Premieres Monday night, October 1st at 8. You're in for a scare. Here on Cartoon Network.
Keep in mind that when they started doing these special marathons, that this was also a time when the network didn't have much cartoons, but instead more live action shows airing. I mean, come on. Surely we can't forget about Dude What Would Happen, Destroy, Build, Destroy, and Reanimated. We can't? Goosebumps though? I remember watching this a lot in elementary school when they had them on Cartoon Network. Being prepared when they had these special event episodes, and also finding episodes on home video. These are some of the oldest ones I have right here. A DVD compilation they used to sell a lot of. This one could have been from either Walmart or Kmart, I'm not entirely sure. However, these two VHS tapes I managed to find when visiting a thrift store with my mom. So this Halloween, I decided why not take a look at some of the episodes of the show for fun. And as luck would have it, the show itself turns 30 this year. How are you feeling, you depressed son of a bitch? Now I say some episodes and not all of them because there are nearly 58 episodes. 74 if you count the two-parter episodes as a singular episode. That would be impossible. So for right now, the ones I picked out are just a sampling of the show. And before you ask, no, I haven't seen the new Goosebumps show on Disney+, and I also barely remember anything from the 2015 movie starring Minecraft Steve himself. I'm mostly going to be talking about the original show from the 90s that I and all of you grew up with watching. So without further ado, let's revisit and how we were all in for a scare, and seeing that it's Halloween, hopefully nothing too scary happens.
Friday, Fox presents a Halloween special
I need a really scary mask, like that one.
based on the bestsellers of R.L. Stine.
I can't get it off me.
Goosebumps, the Haunted Mask.
His face. It's your face now.
Friday at 8, 7 Central on Fox.
We might as well start off with the one that started it all. The Haunted Mask, based off the 11th book in the series, but was also the pilot for the TV show, which premiered on Fox October 27th, 1995, with the VHS coming out on March 12th, 1996. Now with some of these episodes, they would have a special introduction by R.L. Stine himself as he tells you the story you're about to see. You can tell that he's more of a writer than an actor with some of these. It's not bad, but he could seriously give Gal Gadot a run for her money.
That's our story. Time to go. The tower is closing. How do you get out of here? Can somebody show me the way out? How do we get out? Really, somebody help me. Let me out. Let me out of here. Let me out.
Someone call Neil Breen, we found the star for his next movie. The plot of The Haunted Mask revolves around this young girl named Carly Beth, who unfortunately falls under the pranks of her fellow classmates, Steve and Chuck. However, the real kicker is that it's now the Halloween season, which makes the pranks pulled on her even worse, by scaring her at the local pumpkin patch or putting worms in her lunch at school. But this year, Carly Beth says enough is enough and decides to do something to get back at those that made fun of her. Wait, no, not like that! She decides to go to this old novelty shop, looking for a mask scary enough to scare everyone. She finds one at the back of the shop, but is stopped by the shopkeeper named Thin Tall Man. His parents must have really loved him. He tells her that the masks are not for sale due to them being too frightening. Carly Beth thinks that would be perfect. However, the shopkeeper tells her to leave, but Carly Beth decides to pretty much steal the mask from him, causing the shopkeeper to scream in terror. Okay, either he screamed or that old man just shit his pants. The mask Carly Beth stole honestly turned out to be the creepiest one of the bunch, so she goes home to try it on, and she loves it. She then scares her little brother with it, as he notices that her voice changed with the mask on. After putting it on once more, things begin to change. For instance, aside from her voice beginning to change, but her attitude as well, not only to her friend Sabrina, but to other trick-or-treaters along the way. Even when she was finally able to scare Steve and Chuck at a local cemetery, including a plaster mold of her head that Carly Beth's mom made for her daughter.
Apologize to her, or I promise you wish you never met her.
Sorry, Carly Beth. I'm sorry. I'm sorry again.
Help me.
Talked.
Please help me.
Pants totally filled.
So after scaring the two and burying the head, she then returns home with Sabrina and tries to have some candy. But Carly Beth seems to be having trouble taking her mask off, as they also find out that there isn't any seam separating the mask and her skin, causing it and her to become one. Of course, being scared, she runs back to the shop and asks for the shopkeeper for help, but unfortunately, he says that he can't remove it, as he then explains that the mask, along with the other ones shown in the back of the store, aren't masks, but actual faces, with each one becoming more deformed over time, also known as, according to him, the unloved ones.
I'm sorry, but this face is your face now.
No!
However, he does mention the only way to stop the fusion of the mask being her face forever is with a symbol of love. But then the masks start to come to life and begin chasing Carly Beth, as she then remembers that the head her mom made for her is a symbol of love. So she makes her way back to the cemetery to dig it up, and uses it to stop the other masks from making Carly Beth join them, as she's finally able to take the mask off.
Just a mask. You're just a mask again.
Now, even though I'm paraphrasing on what happens while doing jokes at the same time, honestly, 30 years later after this episode premiered, this is still pretty good. Sure, it can come off as cheesy nowadays, but it's still a good time to sit down and watch. Plus, the scene where Carly Beth forces an apology from Steve and Chuck is good and creepy, as well as showing how close the mask and Carly Beth are to being one, with the sweat glistening off it. I also have to give credit to the young actress who plays Carly Beth, Catherine Long. She does a really good job as a kid who can go from a scaredy cat, acting rude and evil with the mask on, to finally having a meltdown due to not being able to take it off. All in all, this was a good and entertaining episode. Plus, it was the first of many episodes with 2 parts that aired on primetime, and this one was a massive hit with nearly 7 million viewers. But if you count this being a 2-parter, it could even be 14 million. And to think, this was the pilot episode for the TV series, and they knocked it out of the park. Another thing I found out that's pretty cool is that Papa Meat, aka Meat Cannon, is now the owner of the original haunted mask used in the episode. I'm not that big a fan of his animations, but learning that is cool as hell. Now the funny thing is that this episode, along with 2 others, never got a DVD release in the US. Sure, it got released over in the UK and Australia, but never over here in the States. And to my knowledge, Netflix is the only streaming service to have this episode while others don't and just go to the next one in line. So the VHS tape I have seems to be the only official physical release of this episode here in the US. Oh hey look, it's the next episode to talk about because I'm not clever enough to write a good transition.
There is something lurking in Fever Swamp.
Nothing else on Earth howls like that.
What?
Like a werewolf.
And when the full moon rises, look out! You better run. From best-selling author R.L. Stine comes a terrifying prime-time special. The Werewolf of Beaver Swamp, Friday at 8, 7 Central.
Werewolf of Fever Swamp aired on May 17th, 1996, with the VHS tape being released the following year, March 25th, 1997. The plot has siblings Grady and Emily not wanting to move to the Fever Swamp that is in the title with their scientist parents. I mean, it can't be that bad. It's not like the swamp is located in the scariest place ever. It is Halloween, but there is some light to find in this swamp, as Grady not only finds a good boy of a dog named Vandal, but also becomes friends with a local kid named Will, as he tells Grady about this hermit who lives deep in the swamp, as he also tells him that he might be a werewolf.
My dad says he's harmless. Don't believe it. He's been roaming around this swamp for 50, 60 years. The moon is full tonight. You'll hear him howling and you'll know exactly what he is. Nothing else on earth howls like that. Like what? Like a werewolf.
Honestly, that's pretty rude to say to the father of voice actor Cree Summers, but okay. No, I'm not making that up. Honestly, the thing that stood out to me the most about this episode is the atmosphere. It looks and feels creepy. The heavy fog and creepy forest setting kinda reminds me of Alan Wake. Yeah, y'all know about Alan Wake, right? The game I made a feature-length video talking about and was very passionate about despite taking 6 months to make, but not many saw because YouTube doesn't give a damn about small creators and constantly has an algorithm that screws them over. Yeah, Alan Wake. Hate your shit, YouTube. Now, I would do the saying of, oh, if I saw this as a kid, I'm sure this would scare or creep me out. But I did see this as a kid, of course through Cartoon Network's Halloween marathon of the show, and this one was one of their special movie night episodes titled I Want My Mommy Movie Night. And still to this day, the thing that stood out to me was the ending, but let me go back a bit. After a while, it's revealed that the hermit isn't the werewolf, but actually is Will, as he attacks Grady, but Vandal saves him and pushes Will into the bog, pretty much leaving him to die. Dude, this episode has a slightly off-screen dead deer and a little boy dying. Who would have thought that Goosebumps could be gnarly? But now for the moment I was talking about. After everything seems to be normal and Grady's parents check on him sleeping, we get this moment.
What the fuck? What the fuck?
I remember seeing that as a kid and it scared the hell out of me. It's a small moment that's only on screen for a second, but it scared me so bad. Plus, it's the most clear shot of the werewolf because it was either close-ups, quick cuts, an Evil Dead-like POV, but most of the time the footage of the werewolf is just in fast forward, which can make it look really goofy. And yet, I didn't think that as a kid. I just thought, that's gonna kill me, that's real, that lives with us on Earth.
I thought I was gonna get eaten!
Aside from that, this episode is very good to help set the mood for the Halloween season and for you to give it a watch.
My life is nothing I thought it should be and everything I was worried it would become because for 50 seconds I thought there was monsters on the world.
Saturday night, join Cartoon Network for a special Goosebumps I Want My Mommy movie night featuring The Haunted Mask 2.
What's the matter? Want your mommy?
The Goosebumps I Want My Mommy movie night. Saturday night at 8. Only here on Cartoon Network.
Now this is a special one. As I said with Werewolf of Fever Swamp, Haunted Mask 2 was not only one of many episodes that got the I Want My Mommy movie night, but I actually remember seeing this one before seeing the first Haunted Mask. I know they showed the first one during one of the marathons, and I vaguely remember seeing it. I didn't have the memories of the first one until I was in my teenage years, and then revisiting it as an adult recently. So Haunted Mask 2 was my first time seeing part of this story and these characters. But much like the first Haunted Mask, the only physical release of this in the US was only through VHS. Alright, so with that information, I don't know how to take this. So I'll go with poorly. Okay, so we don't get the first Haunted Mask on DVD, but you decide to give that treatment to the sequel episode? And also, $34? That's pretty expensive, even for a single DVD. Surely they must have included something as a neat bonus along with this episode. Well, they gave you part 1 of Haunted Mask 2, part 2 of Haunted Mask 2, and this face. Yeah, this is the bare minimum they could have done for a DVD release, but here's the thing. When they started doing later releases of Goosebumps on DVD, they included more than one episode on the disc. Yes, this is a later release I'm using as an example, but still, they could have at least had the courtesy to have the first Haunted Mask as a bonus. Look, I know this isn't an end of the world thing I'm talking about here, but it just makes me sound stupid for doing so. What's the excuse of not putting Haunted Mask 1 on DVD when you're gonna do it for the second one? Seriously, what excuse did they even have?
Well, that sounds about right.
Now what I have here is the VHS of Haunted Mask 2, and like the last 2 episodes we just talked about, this is the one I'll be using. The funniest thing is when finding a copy on eBay, and some are selling it for wild prices. Sure, one I found is an officially graded copy, but some out there are selling for over $100, claiming it's a very rare tape. I bought mine for $16. Anyway, the sequel takes place 1 year after the events of last Halloween, as we are rejoined with Carly Beth, who is not as scared as she was last time, even when Steve and Chuck tried to scare her again. Steve tries to ask her what happened to that mask she had, but explains to him that she got rid of it and refuses to tell him where she bought it from. However, at the cemetery, we see the mask coming from the ground where Carly Beth buried it last year as it makes its way to the shopkeeper as he's trying to burn the rest of the unloved ones in the store's furnace.
It's just as I feared, isn't it?
Yes.
Halloween has brought you back. I will stop you.
You know, if Halloween Ends had this type of explanation for how Michael Myers came back, it would have made the movie, well, I wouldn't say better.
The mask then flies onto the shopkeeper, taking over his body, and plans to get back at Carly Beth. The mask also begins to have more of a voice as the episode goes on, but when you first hear it, it's more like raspy whispers, and I swear, it was laughing like Butthead. Steve and Chuck stumble upon the masked shopkeeper after school as they chase him all the way to the old shop from the first one, which has long since been abandoned. Steve then decides to sneak into the back of the store and goes down to the basement, where he finds a display of masks that the shopkeeper has yet to burn, and finds this droopy old man one and believes it would be perfect for Halloween that night. But if you remember what happened to Carly Beth in the first story, then you know how this one's gonna go. He puts the mask on 3 times over the course of that day, his behavior begins to turn and starts acting more mean, and he and the mask start to become one. But the added twist with this mask is given that it's an old decrepit man, it has spiders crawling all around him, causing his hands to turn and age rapidly, and making him sound like a dehydrated SpongeBob.
No, wait! No line! Can't get it off, no line, please help me.
The way the second half of the episode is structured has Carly Beth, Sabrina, and Chuck trying to find Steve before something bad happens to him. But it turns out, something bad is happening. The masked shopkeeper is tormenting Steve on how he'll be an old man forever, unless he gives him the head of Carly Beth before midnight. Her head, of course, meaning the plaster mold her mom made for her. So he goes to her home and steals the head, and returns to him as he demands Steve to smash it on the ground. But just like in the first one, the head begins to talk once again.
Help me. Please, help me.
More spiders, anyone?
But the masked shopkeeper taunts Steve some more until he finally smashes it on the ground. And at the same time, the others end up in the cemetery as well, only for the masked shopkeeper to corner them and tries to force his face on the Carly Beth to make himself her face forever. But Steve manages to stop him before he could do so, as the mask is finally able to come off of him, revealing that the symbol of love for him is to save Carly Beth. They all go home and finish the job for the shopkeeper and burn the last 2 masks in the fireplace. The last one seems to not melt away, as Steve's dog decides to bury it in the backyard.
Can you imagine if the mask managed to find its way onto the dog like how it did to the shopkeeper? It would have been like the precursor to Son of the Mask. Actually, no, that sounds horrifying. Well, anyway, let's step away from VHS to DVDs for the final Goosebumps episode we'll be talking about.
Trick or treat.
Trick or treat forever!
Smell my feet.
They won't let us go!
Give us something good to eat.
You kidnapped the 4 missing people.
Watch Night of the Jack-O-Lantern on an all-new Goosebumps coming up next on Fox Kids Monsterama Saturday. But beware, you're in for the one and only scare.
Make them one of us!
Attack of the Jack-O-Lanterns aired October 26, 1996, just 3 days before Haunted Mask 2. And this time with a DVD release on September 8th, 2009, or in this case with the one I have here, a 3-pack thriller combo which came out on August 26, 2014.
I was a sophomore by the time this DVD pack came out. So how are y'all doing?
The plot of this one has Drew and Walker being reunited with her old friends, twin siblings, Shane and Shauna. But every Halloween, they're always scared by the bullies, Lee and Tabby, pulling pranks on them.
It's getting worse. Last year, they snuck into my Halloween party and pretended they were burglars.
It wasn't a funny joke.
It was a sick joke. We thought it was for real.
Maybe this is how YouTube prank channels began.
The four decide that enough's enough and want to get back at Lee and Tabby. Later, Drew and Walker call the two, inviting them to go trick-or-treating with them. So the following night, the two meet up with Drew and Walker. But Shane and Shauna are nowhere to be found, which makes them a tad worried, as there are also headlines of people going missing every year it seems. Doesn't really help when they are found by these two figures with jack-o'-lanterns on their heads, and leads them to a neighborhood perfect to score some candy.
Could have been worse, honestly. They could have played the well-known game of, hey, get in the van!
Anyway, the jack-o'-lanterns lead them to a neighborhood far from theirs that's oozing with Halloween decorations and people with bowls and buckets of candy to give out. Just a quick thing to bring up. You might have noticed that 3 out of the 4 episodes I picked out have been Halloween related. I didn't even notice it myself until selecting this as the final one, but honestly, I'm glad I did. Because revisiting these, I'm reminded of decorating for Halloween or dressing up to go trick-or-treating with my mom and sister when I was younger. I didn't go as anything scary if I recall. I think the oldest costumes I wore as a kid was a firefighter and Spider-Man. I would say how one year I dressed as Harry Potter because I saw 4 of the movies, but I don't want to give J.K. Rowling any credit her ass has left. I also do remember dressing up as a vampire, I want to say, back in 2006. It wasn't anything groundbreaking or scary. I think it was a t-shirt and a generic vampire cape we already had from my older siblings. But honestly, that's what also makes Halloween fun. You could do whatever you want and dress however you want. It could be funny, scary, harmless, something homemade, or a member of the KKK? What the hell? But unfortunately, that's all I can say that's really good about this episode. And I know there's only so much they can do condensing a book into an average episode that's roughly 22 minutes compared to the primetime 2-parters I talked about in this video that are nearly an hour long. So after they got all their candy that night, the jack-o'-lanterns tell them to continue to keep getting more. However, Tabby and Lee believe it's Shane and Shauna as they rip one of the heads off, revealing that no one is underneath. So they are forced to keep getting more candy. Even when the bags are filled to the brim, the jack-o'-lanterns just empty the bag right in front of them on the street. But the 4 manage to run away into the woods, and yet the jack-o'-lanterns manage to catch up with them as they try to make Tabby and Lee one of them, causing them to run all the way home with the reveal of the jack-o'-lanterns actually being Shane and Shauna, as it then turns out that they're actually aliens.
I'm sorry, what?
I would say that this is a surprise, but this is mostly a surprise out of confusion. Yet Drew explains why they only come back once a year as they show their true selves, which look like the alien versions of Ubi, and their bodies and walk remind me of the Goombas from the '93 Super Mario Bros. Movie. It also turns out that before they leave, they eat humans, revealing what happened to the people that tend to disappear every year. Compared to the last 3 episodes we discussed, this one isn't as good, and I don't remember how I felt about it as a kid either. Attack of the Jack-o'-Lanterns is just okay. I feel like this would be an alright episode to have on in the background during a Halloween party, and not much else. However, if you want to see an actual Attack of the Jack-o'-Lanterns, then may I turn you over to the Halloween episode of Pete and Pete.
Hey, does anybody else's pumpkin head smell like tangerines?
Oh yeah, I licked mine once.
Honestly, the Goosebumps TV show is like a box of chocolates. You never really know what you're gonna get. But for me, as a kid seeing them for the first time, that's what made it fun. And as an adult, I still enjoy them and they hold a very special place in my heart.
I know I only scratched the surface of the show because there are so many episodes I briefly remember watching growing up or haven't even seen, like Werewolf Skin, Welcome to Dead House, or the 3-part Chillology. So who knows? Maybe someday I'll return to talking about some later episodes I remember seeing or sharing my first time experiences with all of you. Yeah, I know it was from a time older than me, but you can see where I'm going with this. If it wasn't for Cartoon Network doing that Goosebumps marathon back in the day, I wouldn't even know what this show was in the first place. They even did the marathon to help count down to the TV movie, The Haunting Hour Don't Think About It, which was surprisingly good and still holds up to this day. I remember that one oddly having a promotion for Papa John's Pizza, even including an online coupon with every copy of the movie. If I used this, would it still be good? Actually, I don't care. Papa John's is mid as shit.
Hey, I'm only speaking the truth.
Even though Goosebumps can be silly or campy nowadays, these are special. Sure, years later I would know about other scary shows for kids like Are You Afraid of the Dark and Erie, Indiana, but I wouldn't see that until my friends later introduced me to those shows as an adult. I still remember watching Werewolf of Fever Swamp with my mom when I was a kid. Sure, the ending of that episode scared the shit out of me, and at the end of the day, it's a superfluous memory, but it's a cherished one. And if you want to check it out, if you haven't already, well, I showed examples on how you can nowadays, either with physical media like VHS and DVD. There's also streaming services that have the show like Netflix and Tubi. But if you want to go the whole 9 yards, Scholastic, the publisher of the Goosebumps books, are streaming the TV show not only on their YouTube channel, but also on their new TV streaming app. Not sponsored, I just wanted to mention that. But also, if you want to go the whole 10 yards, while I was making this video, I found a Goosebumps fan channel that has a good chunk of the original TV airings of the episodes, plus some recreations. I'll provide some links in the description if you want to go ahead and check it out.
Nonetheless, I hope you all enjoyed this little treat from me to you for the Halloween season. And if you want some more creeps or heebie-jeebies, I do have a video where I talk in a feature movie's length about the first Alan Wake game, and how it was my dive into horror games. I know I joked about it earlier in the video, but I did put a lot of work into that, which doesn't really reflect onto an algorithm that doesn't give a shit about you. Okay, that sounded depressing, I'm sorry, but either way, thank you all so much for watching the video, have a happy and safe Halloween, and I'll see you next time.
Now that wasn't too scary, was it? Let's ask my family. Mom? Dad? What did you think? I think they liked it. I hope you did too. Have a scary day, everyone.